Hey guys, and welcome to another Destiny Council video, and today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying our Worlds Prep series in preparation for Worlds. um, but it takes a lot of time to write these articles, obviously, and we also have Worlds just coming up basically 2 weeks from now, a little bit less than 2 weeks. So we don't have time really between testing and just like how many decks there are to write an article for all the decks that we wish we could. So what I'm going to be doing is doing a video series to kind of do a quick once over of the decks that we have missed, which is a lot of decks, and hopefully it can help you guys. Hopefully I can provide some good insight. Obviously they won't be as well refined, but I'll do my best. So for today, I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood we're looking at Aerobook Gaming's list on SW Destiny DB, and we're looking at their Yoda Hondo list. So yeah, so I'm just gonna follow the same structure as my articles. Um, Try to give you my initial thoughts. If you disagree with me, that's fine. Feel free to post it in the comments below. But hopefully we can have a good discussion here. So first things first, let's look at the characters. You have Yoda and Hondo, so we'll talk about Yoda first. As far as weaknesses and strengths of this character, he's certainly got a very strong utility dice. So he has the ability to guarantee specials are being rolled on your side of the table because his special can obviously focus to another special, but even more than that, his 2 focus can help with that as well. So when you have 50% sides that can help you get other specials, he's a really good supporting dice because you get that force wave on the board, get that lipo on the board, you get that cunning on the board, and they have especially cunning and lipo with only 1 special. It could be hard to get those sides on them, but Yoda makes it easy. So that's one of the best strengths of his character. As far as weaknesses, he has these 3 little sides in the middle that are kind of bad, like the 1 disrupt, the 1 discard, and 1 shield are just not all that great. But they're better than having a blank, obviously. Um, and um, he's kind of low health for 13 points. He's not like it. I guess it's not low health. It's just not high health, right? Um, you can get characters at like 12 elite for 10. So when you gain a point but don't gain any health, it's kind of a little bit sad. And then if you were to go up 1 more point to like 14, you'd see characters like Luke potentially, who has 11 health. So he's a little bit low on the health end for having 13 points, but it's not like bad. It's not like that's a reason to not play him. It's just something like if you could wish for something for Yoda, be like, why doesn't he have 11 health? Um, yeah, beyond that, he's a pretty solid character in general. Big weakness is no damage on his dice. Um, so he's played in a lot of damage decks where he doesn't really offer any damage himself. Let's look at Hondo. So strengths of Hondo. He has ridiculously powerful special. That's like his strength. To have a 3-side on a 15 cost character, but not only a 3-side, but 2 3-sides is ridiculous. And a 2 resource swing is almost more than a 3 damage swing, because each resource is about 2 damage, right? So if you steal a resource, you now have a resource that you could pay for a card with, and most events are about 1 for 2 or a little bit better sometimes. So look at it this way: if you steal a resource from your opponent, you get to play a Force Illusion, he doesn't. How much of a swing is that? Anywhere from a 4 HP swing to an 8 HP swing, depending upon like how much damage these Force Illusions are blocking. So while the special is nuts in dealing 3 damage, it's also nuts. Sorry for moving the screen, guys. And just get swinging resources. Beyond that, his dice are kind of like meh. 2 dress ups obviously synergizes with himself, but it's meh. Weaknesses: he can struggle to deal damage in late game because he doesn't have a damage die in late game because people stop paying up for upgrades. So that special is like meh. Obviously, you can get around it with certain things, like resolving to 2 disrupt obviously helps. Having other disrupt sides, having cards that can disrupt resources can be nice, but it is a weakness. He's also definitely low health. Having a 10 HP at 15 is really low. This is why a lot of 15 point characters struggle, is because sitting at like the 10 health point, and I mean or 9 in the case of what's her face. It's like Asajj, I think, is like 9 health for 15. At 15, you really need to be having around 11 HP. It doesn't matter as much for Hondo because he does have such strong sides anyways, so he's definitely probably worth playing. And especially in a hero deck like this is, he has second chance, so it doesn't really matter. But moving on. Overall, about the characters, I think the biggest strength of the characters is their ability to resolve all of your dice quickly and to resolve all of them on specials. A couple rerolls will get you the specials on most of their dice, and the specials are pretty good. The characters are really good at getting you resources, but both of them can be susceptible to not dealing damage. Yoda needs upgrades on himself. Hondo needs to have no resources for his opponent in order to deal damage, so that's kind of a weakness of theirs. It's not too big of a deal. While we're talking about characters, we should talk about the plot. I don't like Fortify at all. I think that Stolen Intel is just better. As long as that one card that you're going to draw is better than a Take Cover, then you probably should have drawn that card. Especially since Yoda Hondo is so good at utilizing the cards because it gains resources so quickly. It will oftentimes get 2 resources from its Yoda dice, and then maybe 1 resource from a Hondo dice, that or it's dealing 3 damage. So you're looking at like 4 resources to work with on turn 1. If you play, like if you buy 2-cost upgrade, you still have 2 resources to work with. You can entangle on turn 1. You can play easy pickings and a force illusion. You can, you can do things like drop a force feed, play that cunning, play an easy pickings, play that force illusion, and play a hidden motive, like, right? So drawing that extra 6th card is usually a helpful thing, and it also 6th card can be really big if you decide to run the Reaping the Crystal version. That being said, I can get the argument for 1 shield being better than a 6th card, just because maybe sometimes that 6th card, while it is better than a 1 shield Take Cover, you just don't have the resources to spend on it. But I will say that the 6th card makes turn 1 blowouts much harder for your opponents, because a Philp is much less likely to remove all of your events. A Probe is much less likely to be effective because you have so many cards in your hand. So yeah, that's another pretty big thing about Can you hear me? Okay, so that's another pretty big thing about the 6 card start. I think my headset just cut out there. Hopefully it didn't cut out too much. Yeah, in any case, that's a pretty big deal. Moving on, gameplay, or no, deck. We'll talk about the deck. Strengths and weaknesses of the deck. Strengths of the deck is it's really fast, and that can help it abuse Frozen Wastes. It has some ridiculous control cards in easy pickings, entangle, and stuff like overconfidence is also really good. Force illusion is really good. Add on to that the ability to potentially play Rebel, and you're looping cards like entangle and easy pickings can be nuts. Obviously, Rebel is a little bit inconsistent, but there's so many discards in this deck. It's usually playable. Let's see what else. What other strengths did we talk about? Hyperspace Jump is really broken. I actually kind of like 2 Hyperspace Jumps, but it depends on the meta. If you expect to see more Boba 7s, Spray Aylas, and Hero Vehicles, 2 Hyperspace Jumps make a lot of sense. If you're expecting to see more Yoda Hondo mirror matches or more Obi Mazes or stuff like that, then maybe Hyperspace Jump isn't as good, but I love 2. Let's see here. Force Wave makes it kind of wreck 3 wides, because 3 wides are Force Wave in combination with Hyperspace Jump lets it wreck 3 wide decks, because not only do you go faster and can Frozen Waste them every turn, but then every once in a while you can jump a turn away from a 3-character deck, which is going to be a slow deck, and then Force Wave obviously does a ton of damage to 3-character decks. Even against 2-character decks, Force Wave is ridiculous. Another strength of the deck is its cunning play on turn 1 means that it can often deal 9 to certain decks. If you play that 2-cost upgrade and then don't roll a resource, Because of Yoda specials guaranteeing the Hondo specials and the Cunning special, you're looking at 3 Hondo specials coming in on turn 1, which is really, really, really rough. And paying them off isn't really a solution either, because then they go into turn 2 and they like drop a Force Wave, or they hyperspace jump you, or they entangle you, or whatever it may be. Yeah. I don't know, what else should I talk about in strengths? I already said speed. Speed is obviously good. Talk about weaknesses. We'll say there's a lot of spot yellow cards, which isn't really too much of a weakness because of second chance. I will say that it can be a little bit weak damage-wise on turn 1 if it doesn't draw Cunning, because getting one of these 3 drops is a little bit harder than it would seem, especially since, I mean, especially in like this list. If you like roll out Yoda and miss a special, and then re-roll and miss a special, it really sucks. Now that's not very common, but it can happen, right? I mean, it's only a 33% chance of hitting a Yoda special on one of those dice. So if you miss those specials twice in a row and you don't get that 3rd resource to drop that light bow or drop that lone operative or something on Hondo, then you're looking at a no upgrade start, which is kind of rough. Weaknesses. Really low health. Okay, like 10 and 10 is bad. I'd also say it's kind of susceptible to Yoda dying early. It's got really good control options, don't get me wrong, but if they, how do I put this? If they don't draw, if you like avoid the easy pickings and they don't draw into other like decent options, even if they do draw into decent control options, as long as they don't like hit like a great easy pickings or something, killing Yoda on turn 2 is not out of the question. So if Yoda dies turn 2, then Hondo can really struggle to deal enough damage on his own because it's so hard for his specials to deal damage. And they lose a lot of speed once it's just Hondo. Oddly enough, they're like slower with the one character because they have to actually keep re-rolling for those Hondo specials. So Frozen Waste can actually be an issue for Hondo to deal with, in a way. But yeah, I don't know. I won't talk too much more about Yoda Hondo, his weaknesses. Let's see here. So gameplay, how do you play with the deck? This is going to be like the hardest part of like the to do in video instead of an article. So Mulligan, you are looking for Cunning if at all possible. Force Feeds are great. They are one of the most broken cards in the deck in combination with the other cards. Beyond that, you're looking for a 3-drop. You're looking for a 3-drop that can be played on Hondo or Cunning. So basically you're looking for a damage upgrade that can go on Hondo. In absence of that, just don't die turn 1 and ramp, you know, or like get resources so that when you draw in, so that you can play those 3-cost upgrades. You're probably looking for Force Illusion. Force Illusion is one of the most useful turn 1 upgrades because I don't know, it just is. It's really good. It's also, Force Illusion isn't something you want to draw late game because you can't mill at that point. Let's see. You're looking for your easy pickings in your mulligan or your overconfidences. You're looking for a good one cost. Even Entangle is decent if you roll a couple Yoda specials. It really depends on the deck you're playing against. Early game, your focus is on getting Hondo specials out quickly such that you can Hondo special after they've played a 2-drop and deal a lot of damage with that. If you can resolve, if you play that Cunning and you resolve 3 specials into character and deal 9, it can really suck for a deck, and they can't come back from that. The alternative is also just as good, where even if they roll an extra resource and they pay you once, you're going to the next turn with three resources more, depending upon what you took with Yoda. So yeah, it'll be easy clap from there. So biggest thing is making sure you get Hondo's specials. That's kind of a weakness of the deck, is if somebody like best defenses Hondo specials, Hondo's dice on turn 1, it can kind of suck. I know that still dealt 3 damage, but it didn't help your game plan. So yeah, beyond early game of like Cunning plan, it's really about playing quickly with like force speeds and just special chain, and then using Frozen Waste and your events to not die. So control is pretty important in the deck. Mid game. In mid game, you're going to be looking to um, basically you're. Oh, the other thing about early games, you're looking to drop a ton of upgrades. On the character they're not focusing. So if they're going for Yoda, drop that handcrafted light bow, the Cunnings, onto Hondo. If they're going for Hondo, then look for that second chance, but also drop like a force wave on Yoda, etc. Um, because yeah, you kind of want to use this early influx of cash from Yoda to like get dice on the board that can actually deal damage. So that's a big part of early game. Mid game, you should have like at least 2 damage dice, preferably 3, but 2 damage dice is kind of enough for you to begin abusing the deck. Go out there, use special chaining and force speeds to resolve dice really quickly and kill characters before they get value from them. If you don't kill them, then you hyperspace jump and you go to the next turn. But if you're, I think you should be running 2 hyperspace jumps. And if this is like turn 3, you should easily have that excess resource to play hyperspace jump. So if you have a damage upgrade on Yoda, and like a force speed, you can roll out Yoda, special chains, force wave special or lipo special, get that character like 1 more damage dice from death, and then just hyperspace jump, go to the next turn, kill that character before they can do anything. Game's kind of over at that point because you're so good at defending yourself. If you get a character down, it's hard for them to kill you. Let's see, late game. Biggest thing late game, if you have Hondo, which is the most common one, make sure you get a second chance down before they can kill you. Letting somebody get a sneak damage play through to kill Hondo is kind of like a way to like give up a free win. But at the same time, I mean, you are giving up damage dice. Late game's pretty straightforward. I mean, you're just trying to deal damage. Keep going fast if you can, because Frozen Waste is going to be huge. If you didn't start on your own battlefield, you can hyperspace jump to it at some point, so that helps. Yeah, late game is just more of the same. It's just like the reason this is like one of the strengths of the decks. It's so potent in mid game because it can get enough resources to play a few upgrades in early game, and now it has like 5 to 6, 7 resources worth of upgrades on the board. And then Yoda keeps generating resources, Hondo keeps generating resources, but instead of like turning those into more upgrades now, you're just turning them into tons of control events or hyperspace jump, and that makes it really like your opponent like starts to not be able to do anything. And if you get a kill in there, then they just can't kill you. So general advice all the time. Don't special chain too early in a turn unless you're trying to hyperspace jump. It's usually unless you're against like a hero yellow deck where they could easy pickings you, then it's a little bit more scary to like keep re-rolling with specials on the board. Sorry guys, for whatever reason my headset isn't registering that it's being used for audio capture. So it's like keeps shutting off. I want to like make it not do that, but worst video ever, guys. So yeah, moving on. What was it talking about? General advice, yeah. So usually if you have cards, it's better to re-roll and get direct specials, because if you roll that another natural Yoda special or another natural Hondo Anaka special, then you can use that second proc on the Yoda die to gain like a shield, right? And that's a pretty big deal. It's just extra health, better efficiency of dice. At the same time, keep in mind that with Frozen Waste especially, you do want to go faster. It's just you don't have to special chain after your first roll in all the time, right? You can do a reroll first and then start special chaining. Other general advice. I don't know. Run 2 hyperspace jumps. Not everyone agrees with me on this. Even people within the council have thought about not running 2. I just think hyperspace jump is one of the most broken cards in the game right now because of the popularity of hero vehicles and Boba 7th and Rey Ayla, and those decks are really weak in hyperspace jump. It's also really funny if people like probe your hyperspace jump, you can still rebel it. I think that's hilarious. Let's see. General advice. Yeah, I don't know. Playing against it early game. Biggest thing, get your filp, get your event removal, because they help mulligan so hard for their upgrades because they really need that cunning, or at the very least like a like bow. They kind of tend to toss their first control cards they draw and just hope that they could draw another control card. They'll usually keep like an easy pickings if they can, but you want that Philp to make it more likely that you can deal a bunch of damage, because moving on into early game against them, your main goal is to kill Yoda by the end of round 2. If you can do that, then Hondo can struggle to win the game. But if you don't kill Yoda by the end of round 2, round 3 is where they begin to start using all the Yoda resources instead of buying upgrades. So they begin to spend them on events, and it becomes really, 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 really hard to kill anyone. And that's also about when they kill one of yours. So not only did you just lose half your dice in the case of a 2-character deck, but now, they roll out on the beginning of turn 3. They like Yoda special, force feed special, handcrafted lipo, kill your Ray, right? So you're down a character. But now they also have like 3 resources sitting there because they Yoda special twice. And what they're gonna do, or 3 to 4 resources, and they're gonna like entangle you when you roll your Ayla, and then they'll hyperspace jump you, or they'll, overconfidence you, and then rebel you another overconfidence. If you don't kill Yoda by the end of round 2, you're asking for a loss. So yeah, basically event control, like hand control, is really important in the early game against Yoda Hondo. Against the 6-card Yoda Hondos, Probe is a lot worse. So if you're running Probe, keep that in mind, that it's not as good against Stolen Intel, because they're more likely to draw 2 upgrades. So they'll have extra upgrades sitting in their hand when you're trying to probe them, and it will take longer for them to get down to like 2 to 3 cards, where Probe becomes really devastating. Let's see here. Other device, mid-game. Watch out for hyperspace jumps. In decks that have action sheets, try to make sure you have enough damage on a character you're going to roll out to like make a difference. Like, for example, if you're playing something like 5-die villain, instead of tossing that early DH17 on Bala, toss it on like Talzin, so that when you tactical mastery turn 2, you have more like black sides on your dice that you're rolling out or something, because you need that cheat to work. So make sure. So I think 5-die is the best example of that. Maybe Boba Phasma is another example where you definitely want to be putting your upgrades on Phasma so that she can action cheat beginning of round 2 or beginning of round 3 and kill a character, because she's the best at action cheating. Action cheating is important against the deck because of hyperspace jumps and the fact that the deck tends to play an upgrade, roll out Yoda, and use the resources from Yoda for its control. So if you can like get out there quickly, then its control matters less, and action cheating is obviously good because you can ignore control even when they have resources. Let's see, late game, it's probably just Hondo there, so try to make sure you always have resources, and probably around 3, because you don't want them to be able to double disrupt you and then Hondo special you for 3. So have excess resources, control the non-Hondo dice, because at this point you want to just start paying off Hondo, because it doesn't matter how much resources they have. They already have 3 upgrades. They already have enough resources to pay for each of their events. But if they're sitting at 2 and they Hondo special you, keep in mind that if they ever get to 3 and they haven't hyperspace to jump you at this game, they probably have a hyperspace in their hand, so don't pay them. Don't pay them so that they can hyperspace you. That's like the worst thing you can do. Oh, this is another thing, early game advice against Hondo: never pay Hondo at all if you can avoid it. I see people save a resource to pay him on turn 1 and just like, why? It's like such a losing game plan. Instead, spend that resource, play for an upgrade, and then pay them off next turn. Some people disagree with me, but I would say paying Hondo early game is almost always the wrong choice. Let's see. Late game. Yeah, be scared of the second chances, but don't be too scared. If you force a second chance, keep in mind that now he only has 2 dice that can deal damage, really. But I don't know, it's kind of hard to talk about how to play against a deck that runs hyperspace and easy pickings and stuff like that. I mean, hand control is always good in general. Going for Yoda first is good in general. Not letting them hyperspace jump you is good in general. So roll out characters who can do... Don't roll out characters who can do more early. So as I said, like 5-die is a good example of this. Roll out Talzin earlier on in a turn, because Talzin can, sometimes use that Talzin focus, or she just has multiple base sides on her dice, whereas rolling out Bala first, it's unlikely you'll be able to do damage on your second action. With Talzin you can. So you just want to make sure that these hyperspace turns aren't terrible for you. And you also want to make sure that you're getting, as I said, sometimes if they like play an upgrade as their first action, don't have resources, roll out that Talzin, show damage, and they haven't rolled out Yoda and taken those resources yet to be able to afford the Entangle that's sitting in their hand. So yeah, in general, roll out a character who can do more early. Um, let's see. Specific cards to talk about. Hyperspace is a big one. I think you should be running 2. But if you really think there's going to be tons of like fast decks, I think there'll be some fast decks, like maybe 33% of the meta, right? But having 2 hyperspace is just like a free auto win against vehicle. I mean, yeah, in combination with Force Wave, it's an auto win against vehicles. It's an auto win against these other slow decks. It's like so good. So good into Boba 7th, so good into Rayla, so good into all this stuff. 4 to 5 versus profitable connections. I would run profitable just because it allows you to be more greedy with your build. You can run like Reaping the Crystal if you're running profitable connections. It makes you less susceptible to early pressure from Probe or Filp, which is one of the ways that you actually lose the game. Let's see. Cards. I think that it's worth considering running like a single lightsaber pull just to add extra handcrafted light bows to your deck, because it's one of the few upgrades that can like be played on both characters and is good on both characters. Whereas like Obi's saber and and cunning and force wave are all like, you know, blue character or yellow character only. Let's see other cards to talk about. Um, I don't know that Rebel's worth a 2 of. Some people love that card, but in certain matchups, it's just not as good because, yeah, having to rely on rolling a discard makes me want to only see it as 1 of. Let's see. Uh, Reversal's kind of a hilarious choice in a meta that's still more full of like Maul Sabers. I don't think it's quite as full of Maul Sabers anymore, but even against like hero vehicles, if they roll out that 6 side and you're like Reversal, it seems pretty good. So Reversal's kind of a funny option, and it just offers another target for Rebel if you're running 1 or 2 Rebels. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. The matchups that are good, I'd say it's good into, as I've been saying, Boba 7th, Rey Ayla, hero vehicles, the slower decks, because it can abuse Frozen Waste so hard against them, and it can, against hero vehicles, it can abuse that Force Wave, even against, I mean, Force Wave even in a 2-character list is a pretty big deal. Dealing 5 damage, and then Hyperspace jumping you, and then dealing another 5 damage the next turn is probably going to mean a win. So yeah, those decks that are really susceptible to Hyperspace jump kind of are really sad against Yoda Hondo. The bad is like other fast decks, like what you call it. Obi Maz can be really sad for Hondo Yoda. Not always, because I mean your easy pickings is really good into it, but um, even Entangle can be good against Obi's dice, but at the same time, um, their like shield gain that they get makes it hard for you to kill them. They're faster than you, so if they win the roll off and take Frozen Waste, they can actually wreck you. Like if they have a 4 speed on Obi, they're just like activate Obi, activate Maz, resolve all of their dice, and then they claim. And you're just not that fast unless you have like 2 4 speeds down, or you always roll specials first. You're just not as naturally fast as Obi Maz. Um, because Obi Maz only needs to really deal 3 damage with its dice and then claim to remove 1 of your Hondo dice, and it's feeling good about it because it's gaining the Obi shields, and it's setting up for drawing that running interference concentrate play, which will just wreck Yoda. Like you can put a Force Illusion on them, but they have Vibra Knives in the deck, so they're just gonna concentrate and hit you for like 8 unblockable. Um, they're also better at hyperspacing you than you are at hyperspacing them. So that's kind of like Obi Maz is kind of like a bad matchup in a sense. Beyond that, it's just kind of like I could see like Boba Phasma maybe if they get lucky with their early rolls in like and can claim Frozen Waste against you, but I don't know, not really. Um, just early damage aggro decks that can do enough to kill Yoda can be a little bit rough for it. Um, yeah, and the shield gain health decks that like have enough shield gain and removal to offset whatever like upgrades you're adding. I mean, Lifeboat obviously helps with that. I don't know if I'm probably missing some stuff in here. I don't personally play Yoda Hondo. It's other people on the council who are more interested in the deck. So take everything I've said as a grain of salt. Conclusions: Yoda Hondo is a great deck mainly because it can abuse Hyperspace Jump um, and Frozen Wastes. It's really hardcore, and its control is so good. It's kind of like it's what like Hanrei was at last Worlds. So for those of you who don't know, Andrew went to Worlds with Hanrei last year and went 9-0 during the Swiss. He was the only 9-0, and he was just wrecking people with Hanrei. And the way that it worked is it was kind of like this ramp deck that just rolled resources, and then it could play all this removal, all these upgrades in like turn 2, turn 3, and you're looking at all these dice that it's spamming the board with, while at the same time it's fast, so it can be used the battlefield, but at the same time it's also removing a lot of your dice. Um, yeah, the combination of like overconfidence, easy pickings, entangle, forest illusion, those are all above the curve, and then being able to rebel one of them if you want, or being able to just hyperspace jump away a turn is just nasty. Its control suite is great. It also has one of the highest like turn 1 damage outputs, actually. One of the most consistent ones, because it always uses 2 Hondo specials at least. If it gets a cutting, it uses 3. Um, because it's not that hard to roll 2 Yoda specials and at least 1 Hondo special, or if you roll 2 Hondo specials and 1 Yoda special, then you can special chain to get to that cutting special. So it's really good at dealing 9 turn 1, which is really great for a late game deck to also be able to have a spike on turn 1. So conclusion, really, really solid ramp control reactive deck that has a lot of abusive cards like Hyperspace Jump and stuff. Reasons not to play it: if you're don't take this wrong way, if you're not as good of a player, I don't think that you should be taking Yoda Hondo. The deck is not easy to play at its best, because if you mess up the early game and you lose Yoda, the deck's kind of screwed. I mean, when I first thought Yoda Hondo was trash, because every time I played against the deck, I wrecked it. Now I was playing Thrawn Talisman, which I think is particularly good against Yoda Hondo, because of the excess resources and being able to hit the control cards. But at the same time, like, when you play against a player and that round 1 and round 2 are so important, you need to play them really well to keep Yoda alive. And then once you get to round 3, the game's like easy, which is why, I mean, if you're playing like, yeah, I'll just say that I think that it takes a skilled pilot to be able to have a chance to beat skilled players. Whereas sometimes other decks, like that are like beat stick decks, have a better chance at beating a skilled player because they do so much damage early. Yoda Hondo has a little aspect of that, so maybe it's not as bad as I'm saying it is, but like, there's not as much room for error when both your characters only have 10 health. There's just no room for error there in early game. So if you mess up, you lose the game. But at the same time, if you're confident you're not going to mess up, this is a great deck. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry for my mic being weird, and see you next time.